Who's ready to talk about God? Okay, now I know what a televangelist feels like. I'm actually not a televangelist, though. I'm just pretending to be one. I'm actually a recovering Catholic. I take it there may be some others in the room that are in a similar position. So I want to first start by introducing myself. My name is Elizabeth Kiehner. I usually go by Liz. I'm Global Design Services Director at IBM. I came from a very creative career and just 2 years into being in a technology company, and I have to say I absolutely love it. So a sidebar conversation we can have is how amazingly wonderful it is to be at the intersection of creativity and technology, and those two worlds should be married together. That's another talk. Today we're going to talk about Watson, God, morality, ethics.
Soon I discovered that this rock
Have a little strange audio clip here, which was the best song that I could find with a reference to Jesus that wasn't overtly religious.
As a prophet, all of a sudden, I found myself in love with the world. So there was only one thing that I could do, was ding-a-ding-dang, my dang-along, ling-long.
So, I don't know if that meant anything to any of you, but I did want to ask for a quick show of hands as to who in this room would say that they believe in God. All right. For those of you who didn't, you're in trouble. Let me tell you why. In many countries in this world, like Saudi Arabia, like Yemen, like the United Arab Emirates, like Sudan, like Nigeria, being agnostic or an atheist is punishable by death. So when we talk about God and we talk about religion, this is a really serious matter in a lot of places. And when we look just domestically within the United States, we see that the religion industry is one of the biggest in this country. And of course, it is largely tax-free. So we're looking at $1.2 trillion a year. And what do I define the religious industry as being? So within this, we're talking about religious schools, halal food markets, we're talking about media companies, we're talking about daycares, we're talking about nonprofits. There's a lot of different things that fall into this category, but it is massive. But what about these guys? What do non-people, what would artificial intelligence say if you asked, do you believe in God? What's your feeling about religion? What religion are you? We're in an interesting time right now where we look at different AI, whether we're talking about Watson at IBM or Deep Blue at Google, and we're seeing this technology morphing and evolving out of the primordial soup that is this emerging industry right now. And it's really, really fascinating to see where it might go. So what do you think would happen, actually, if we asked Watson today, hey, Watson, do you believe in God? What would Watson say? So the answer is not so easy, and it never usually is. There's a lot of gray areas when we talk about these things. So the way Watson is trained, there are multiple instances of Watson. I, right now, am working on a project with Watson in the automotive sector. So we're teaching Watson all about cars. Watson's ingesting owner's manuals of cars and auto records and auto blogs and all of these things to be able to make diagnostic and prediction and everything around vehicle ownership much, much easier. So that's one instance of Watson. So if the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints trained an instance of Watson, then maybe that instance of Watson would say, yes, I believe in God. Or another instance of Watson would say no. It depends on the people who train it. So one of the big points I want to make is when we look at cognitive systems, we know that in order to train a cognitive system, we have this load of data in whatever subject matter or domain we're looking at, structured and unstructured information that can get rapidly ingested into Watson on one hand, and then we have the quality experts or people on the other hand. And those are the people that will come in and ask Watson questions and make sure the questions are being answered in the right way. And the training is very intensive. And the data side is relatively rapid, but when we look at the people, we have to factor in the fact that people have a lot of known or unknown biases, prejudices that will impact how the system responds. So we saw a good example of this earlier this month. There was a lot of buzz around this in social media, which some of you may have seen. It was the first international beauty contest that was judged by artificial intelligence. And if you saw this in Twitter, there were a ton of headlines saying that AI is racist, which it was. Whoever trained this AI was probably advertently or inadvertently racist, because there were 6,000 people that entered this beauty competition. Of the 6,000 people from 100 countries, there were 44 winners. Of those 44 winners, only a handful were Asian and only one was black. And that's messed up. But this is what happened, and this is why, when we're looking at these gray areas, it's really important to be conscious of not just talking about religion, and I talk about God in part to be overly provocative and dramatic about this. The people who train the systems, there's so many sensitivities and nuances that go into this. As we rely more and more on artificial intelligence and other technologies, we need to be keenly aware of that. So if you believe God created man in his own image, is man creating artificial intelligence in our own image? It's sort of what it looks like in some ways. And what does it mean to believe? We can train a program to believe whatever we say, that 2 equals 2, that my name is Elizabeth, that there is a God or there isn't a God. They accept these things as facts. But can we actually make AI believe? Then it's interesting as well to see how this all evolves. When we look at AlphaGo and we saw the fact that Lee here learned a lot playing against AI, and it was an interesting study in the fact that the AI took a game strategy that was played for 2 to 3 millennia in China and took it to a whole different level and made very, very unpredictable decisions that baffled him even during the game. So the AI lost only 1 game. And some people were disappointed in that, and they were expecting, if Google was really successful, they would have won all of the games. But we wouldn't have learned or we wouldn't have innovated if we didn't see this. And that was a really incredible experience to see how the artificial intelligence can start to deviate and learn in its own way, find its own strategies and approaches to things. This independent thought is what really makes me curious about where this could all go. Then to take that into another pivot and another dimension to this conversation is shifting from AI to quantum computing. And this wonderful old quote from Richard Feynman really speaks to this well, that if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. So with quantum computing, back in May, IBM introduced quantum computing to the cloud so that anyone can have access. Scientists, researchers can radically accelerate their innovation based on having access to this tool. But quantum computing is wickedly fast and wildly unpredictable in sometimes, and that it's very, very unintuitive. So in this world where there's a lot of murkiness and there's a lot of unknowns, I'm inherently a very positive and optimistic person when it comes to technology, but we're not really sure of what the road is ahead. Are we going to be living in a world of happy dancing robots? Or is the future going to look different? Does anyone know why this year is so relevant? Yes, singularity. So Ray Kurzweil, this is the year that we're supposed to reach singularity. We will become one with technology. At age 69, I could be a cyborg, I hope. But when we reach that point of singularity, and as we enter this era that I like to call the era of superintelligence that we're all on top of right now, are we going to, when we're one with technology, believe in God? Are we going to allow our technology to make decisions and choices for us that have ethical and moral implications? So for those of you who are visiting New York, you want to find something fun to do this weekend, even though I would say it's much better to be outside because it's such gorgeous weather. This is a great Broadway show right now, An Act of God. You can see Sean Hayes and this weird guy that looks like Warren Buffett. And if you want to talk more about AI, please do reach out to me either via Twitter or email. Again, it's Elizabeth Kiehner, and thank you all for your attention today.